you play with extreme emotion, you do that by taking all your phrasing tools, your vibrato, your sliding, your bending, all of those things that we consider emotional tools of expression on this instrument, which is also, just to think about it, this is the emotional instrument of all times. Just think about all the things we can do to one note compared to most other instruments, or all other instruments perhaps. It's just amazing how we can influence exactly how it sounds. But something we often overlook is the ability to influence emotions by using notes that we rarely use, if ever. And just in this little example here, and go download this really cool jam track for this exercise. Click the link below. The lesson is there underneath the video. You can download it. Because what we don't see is that, as we talked about in the 2 previous videos, the notes we use sound good to the extent that they are in the right context, and not so much because of the notes here. I was using notes here that you would normally go, if you heard up against the chords. I can just, a little demonstration here. Let me just use 2 of the notes. That's pretty unacceptable, right? Right? Or how about the other one? Here we go. I was also using that as much as any of the other notes I was using. And what you're hearing here is just total terror. But that's an emotion too, isn't it? Right? But if you're not in terror all the time, and you just add a little bit to the line that you're playing, a little terror becomes melancholy, or it becomes a sentimental feeling, or like it just adds in an incredible way, like spice, like a little bit of chili, or a little bit of acid, or lemon juice, or like it just expands the flavor, basically, like in food, right? You can have a cool melody or a cool dish, but if you add the right kinds of spice, which is also, if you take in, just clean curry or clean acid or clean salt and you put it in your mouth, it tastes awful, right? In the same way here, we use the awfuls to add spice to what we're playing. And you should do that in any style of music. And I'm just going to give you a couple of examples. And then you can go check out the new program on chromatics for even more of this. But a couple of really cool examples. Let's say you're using, in this case, the E minor pentatonic, right? We got that in the 12th fret, the first position shape there that everybody knows. And then you can add the natural minor to it. First position K shape. Go look that up on the internet if you don't know what I'm talking about. E natural minor, first position, with its root note on the low E string in the first finger. So we put that on top of the pentatonic, and that sounds like this. So this is the pentatonic. Right? It's a cool tool, but it lacks a little bit of flavor. So I'm putting down over that, I'm putting the natural minor, which has 2 extra notes compared to the pentatonic. Oh, see, that's flavor, right? That's the 9th. And then I got the C note there. Which is really cool spice again, but I don't rest on them all the time, like I don't do with the chromatic notes, or the notes in between, I should say, right? So how can we add these notes, these extra notes, to the mix here? We're using all the notes now on the fretboard, right? The pentatonic, E minor pentatonic, the E natural minor, and then I'm also using and we talked about the idea of chromatics, but let's now use the idea of lead tones. So anytime, try this out. It's really easy. If you know the natural minor, anytime in the natural minor scale or shape that you have a semitone interval, put one below. Right, so if I play this first position here, then I would have a semitone interval in the 14th and 15th, or between there on the low E and the A string. And on the B string or D string, I wouldn't find anything because I only got 2 notes there. Then on the G string, I have 11 and 12 in the first position natural minor shape on the G string. So I could put one there. On the B, I have in the 12th and 13th fret. So I could put one in the 11th fret. Right? Again, those were the notes I played in the beginning. right? And then if you go to up here on the high E string, you got notes, a semitone interval in that scale in the 14th and 15th fret. Right? So let's try and just play around with that and put one lead tone that leads up to the first note of that semitone interval. Right? Let's just listen to the emotional impact it has. Chromatics, right? But it doesn't sound out at all. But if I do it like that, it's gonna sound very out. As long as you use it as a lead tone, you take the note that's in the scale, go down one semitone and then up again, and then merge it into a line like. Right? Then it sounds really cool. And then you investigate. You stay in the same position, the same scale shape, on the same 3 strings, for instance. And then you just play around with it over this track that you can go download right now. Click the link below. And then explore when does what sound good, right? Because you got 3 semitone intervals on the top 3 strings, but one of them is the same. Just one octave apart, right? And then you got the other one. And then you explore when does what sound good, right? Over the chords in the background, follow the chord progression. Another little trick is simply to take the notes of the pentatonic scale or the E minor arpeggio, depending on how much you know, and then just put lead tones on them every single way. So if we take the pentatonic scale, then you just go. Right, so you start, instead of just playing the note, see how that sounds like music, even though I'm using all 12? Right, that little pattern there, let's just listen to that. So if I'm playing kind of a bluesy, play some emotions here. What you can do. But what do you do with all this? Because most people say, oh, that's an interesting concept, Claus, a nice YouTube video, and then whew, we move on to something else, right? That's the place we live in these days. And we had so much information, so many things that can inspire us, so we rarely sit down and really focus on one thing. And I used to do that all the time, not because I'm so good, because there was no internet back then, right? I had these 3 ideas from Paul Gilbert, these 2 ideas from Guitar Player magazine somewhere, and I cut it out, Xeroxed it, so I had it on paper, and that was what I had. So I just, I had to focus, right? But these days, what you do in this cool world of everything being so available to you, what you do is that instead of just hammering away at it and saying, okay, let's try that out, you think first and you create a project out of it. You say, okay, for the next, this is really cool. And then you make sure that you implement it into your playing. Just don't start practicing it. Implement it. What does that mean? It means that you carve it in to your brain, right? So you can't forget it. So you're sure you're making a real impact. And you don't make an impact by dabbling with everything. So what you do is you say, okay, cool concept. let me see if I can focus on that only for a week or only for a month, or like 80% of my time is just building, grinding chromatics like this, taking these concepts from these videos or from the new course that Claus created, the Tactical Chromatics course, which will, enable you to create a project of 4 weeks where you just focus intensely on this over and over and over again, because you want to get to the point where it's like riding a bike where you can't forget. You want to get to a point where you're using it without thinking about it. It's not a conscious tool. Nothing is on this instrument. You have to move everything to the zone of you don't think about it. You just play it. You just use the tools because they're natural to you, right? That's when you can really express yourself. So you don't have to go buy a program to do that. You can use that piece of advice to say, I'm going to create a project. Every time I see something that's very exciting, I'm going to say, how am I going to use this? How am I going to put this into action over time so I make sure it becomes a reality in my playing instead of just a new thing I tried out for a couple of, days or hours for that matter, right? So every time you're inspired, create a project, say, how long am I going to focus on this, and make sure you can't forget. And of course, if you got the possibility, the opportunity to invest, then of course you want to go all the way and invest in something that can guide you there. But for now, I hope this was inspiring to you, and I hope you'll take up my advice here, because it's the only way to get to mastery, is if you create projects like this. Hope to see you in the next video. Go down off the jam track and have fun with these concepts. And be sure to watch these videos over and over again. Repetition with regards to your mind and is equally important, right? That comes first, and then you repetitively practice the same thing until it's unconscious, an absolute habit when you play. See you soon.